Per usual, everything else channels for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. It's Wednesday. Let's take a look at some alts. Alts really going to get smacked around here. BTC pulls back. We'll take a look at that. I'm expecting some softness here, some seasonal softness in June for BTC. We're also running hot. We're up 7-8 weeks in a row on BTC. We've never seen a 9th green week. We're up 50% from the bottom. These are all just reasons and justifications for some pullback here. If I try to craft a narrative on why BTC would pull back, why alts would pull back twice as hard, it's those reasons there. There's a reversal pattern we'll look at on BTC. There's a bear div on BTC as well we'll take a look at. But on dominance, it's still a Bitcoin show. And that's the tough part here. I don't think bidding alts is where I want to be personally. Alts did not outperform up here broadly, right? So to expect them to outperform on a bounce, I'm not so sure. I think it makes sense to be patient and just wait for your pitch, wait for your moment. If you're playing the BTC dominance game, clearly on trend, we're fine. On a channel, we're fine. On a high time frame cloud, you know, it's all BTC. We'll go to alts over BTC here. Tells the story. Again, this is just inverted dominance. This could bottom. This could double bottom. I don't know, right? It probably needs another 100 days. A small part of me is expecting alts to be bullish in Q4. Do I want to hold alts through Q3 if that's the case? I don't. I would rather look to buy alts towards the end of Q3. Again, with September seasonal weakness for BTC, I don't expect alts to do well. People just don't want to hold alts through the down move. They only want to hold them for momentum. And that's not where I want to be. Now, Total 2 looks fine. Total 2 will flip here on the cloud probably within the next couple weeks. If not this week, you'll get a fully bullish cloud. The issue is here, like on many charts, you are extremely far away from the mean reversion level, which is the Kijun there in the red. So what I expect is everything to flip bullish, but then also to flatten out into maybe July. Maybe we get a good month in July, we get a pullback in June. That would make sense seasonally. And if we get anything that looks like Q4 last year, where we just flatten out for a couple months, it's possible we don't get anything in June through Q3 and we flatten out into Q4. I think you have to be prepared for that because of how well BTC has done. Even legacy markets have done very well. I think they also need to cool off for a minute. We don't need crazy pullbacks here, but expectation-wise in the near term, I'm not really expecting much. And we'll look at ETH. We can talk about a flag. We can talk about Adam and Eve ascending triangle. All that's possible. It's certainly possible. But if Bitcoin pulls back, I'm not expecting ETH to break in the opposite direction. So I really don't think you can ignore Bitcoin here if you're trading alts. I think everything's going to recouple here if we move lower. We haven't had too much help from stablecoin prints either on the altcoin side. Alts thrive when liquidity is piped into the system via stablecoins. Circle's kind of capped off there at 61 billion. Tether rising slightly here, 150, 153 billion. But we really haven't seen continuous prints like we did post-election. I mean, you can just see this rate of change here. Post-election on both of these relative to what we've seen recently. Now, Tether did take off quite a bit, and alts after that did well, right? It's just we're seeing kind of a leveling off here on the liquidity front. Some of the other alt analogs, Total 2 versus Coin, Total 2 in the purple there, Coin in the white, and then WGMI in the green. WGMI has yet to catch up with either of these, even though historically they're relatively coupled. There may be a catch-up trade here after a down move. I still don't think you bid that. That's just me. I think you just wait to see how the chips fall. Maybe you get a breakout play on miners here coming up. June, July timeframe. But clearly there's a huge disconnect here. I just don't think BTC has the momentum, and miners certainly don't have the momentum to close this gap at the moment. Coin also has hit its expected measured move. To expect anything else here on Coin in the near term doesn't make sense to me. I think it needs time, it needs consolidation, it needs a pullback before it goes higher. This whole thing is just a giant range in the moment, and you're not really trending. You're trending, you're breaking out on low time frames, sure. There was a great pattern here that broke out, awesome. But since 2024, really hasn't gone much of anywhere. That includes alts, that includes WGMI. Obviously, if you can catch these swings on a percentage basis, you're doing okay. But this stuff really isn't trending on high time frames. Hood is another one in the exchange realm that if crypto pulls back, Total 2 pulls back, Hood will probably pull back. There is a bear div up here on Hood. There is a rising wedge here in low time frames on Hood. This could morph into a cup and handle. This is also up 2x from the lows, 30 to 60. And at some point, people just want much more than what the market is willing to give them, right? Maybe they entered this late. Maybe they think it's going to 120, and that may be the case in Q4. I just don't see the momentum there today for that. So some sort of cup and handle is possible. The mean reversion level is all the way down there, 48. I think anything between 48 and 55 is reasonable, but there's a bear div on that as well. So that one is an avoid for me. Hype, I get a lot of questions about this recently because of the James Wynn full round trip of his 85 million P&L. This also looks like, it's up 3x from the lows in 2 months. What more do you want? What more do you want? So I like 25. It just doesn't make sense to me to see continuation here without some sideways or pullback first. RSI is also at it hit probably like 85, 90. You want RSI elevated. You actually want it in overbought territory, but when it gets in the 90s, then you're kind of getting a little ahead of yourself, a little too far, in my opinion. So there's no bear div here. It's had a great run, just like BTC. It's had a great run. We'll throw MSTR in this bucket as well. Anything between 300 and 330 is probably reasonable. Trend-wise, you want this fully bullish on the cloud. You can see how it like lazily hit the edge-to-edge target, kept going, and then sort of double topped and broke down. And it's kind of just a mess here on trend. There's a volume level at 330, basically, that's W, right? So that's a decent level to watch. Kijun there at 330. Needs time. Just needs time. I'm not expecting anything here probably for the next couple of weeks. Let this just grind lower. Grind out all those people on the option side and revisit this probably later in June. You've also got the watch charts just for entertainment purposes, looking at this thing sort of grind to lows. Similar to NFTs, it just doesn't feel like there's a lot of money being thrown at the ultra risky stuff at the moment, but that may change. So for BTC, we're kind of hanging on by a thread here. This is the setup. Upside risk is 120. Downside risk is 93. Kind of in the middle of that. Stop loss on any longs, trailing stop loss is at the Williams fractal level 1066. It's also at the Tenkin, which is going to move up slightly today on the close. If this low holds, you're going to get another trailing stop loss within the next 2 days at 1073. So we are really cutting it close to what you generally expect to see from a move without hitting a trailing stop loss. Now, we haven't closed below that level, so I may be jumping the gun here by closing a lot of my positions on BTC from the trading side. But the high trailing stop loss coupled with the downside risk here, does it go to 93? I don't know. I don't really care, but if it does, I'm going to be ready. And if you think it's going to go down, you need cash to do that. So I like anything, if we zoom in a little bit, you can kind of get a better sense of the volume here. I like anything below 103. I like 103. I like 96. I like 93. I don't think we're going to 83, but 94 was a key level there in this consolidation. I think it's going to be tough for us to get anywhere near 93, and we will probably stop somewhere around 94 if we do pull back. But I don't think we're going to hold 106 personally. So if that's the case, if you're in agreement with that and you're in a boatload of alts that are effectively 2x plus BTC, then you're probably going to get rocked if this does happen and if BTC does pull back. At this point, I don't think is this going to pop up. Let's just add RSI real quick here. On the daily, there certainly is not a bear div. We actually negated the bear div. If we do, for whatever reason, see a higher high above the current all-time high of 112, almost certainly that will be a bear div, at least in the interim before that confirms. There's still a lot of people pointing to the weekly bear div. And if we do pull back, then we can start talking about confirming a bear div. You're getting a higher high in price, lower RSI, right? It's there to say that it exists. Am I a strong believer personally? Not really, but fine. If that's going to help us pull back, I'll take it. You've also got on BTC here the 4 hour, which has had a beautiful trend pulling back. Here's the 4 hour since the bottom. Since April 12th. Look at this thing, just beautiful. Above the cloud, above the Tenkin, you get a bullish GK recross here. And up here, it looks a little Adam and Eve to me, inverted. There's your Adam, there's your Eve. We can measure this. That measures to the previous order block, 101, 103. So it just feels a little tired up here, to me. Could be wrong. I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. So it makes sense to see alts weak in the face of that. If we check IBIT really quick, if you didn't know, for certain jurisdictions and individuals, you can trade stocks on Kraken. If we look at IBIT, some people like this chart better. If we look at the IBIT Williams fractals, we don't have a Williams fractals here, or Williams fractal support on IBIT until 57. So that would be the trailing stop loss. Tenkin is also there. If we go down to the 4 hour though, there is a trailing stop loss right here. Trailing Williams fractal at 61. So if you want to look for it, it's there on the ETF side. And the downside here is 53 to 55. This is actually the wrong cloud, but if we look at VPVR, that's probably the most important thing here. The volume support is there at 55. So I don't think that's unreasonable for Bitcoin to pull back to that level. I don't think it's unreasonable for IBIT to pull back to that level. If we flip back to alts, we'll talk about ETH first, because ETH still is holding what I would consider a potential ascending triangle, a potential Adam and Eve. Now it's up to you. Maybe you want to hedge long against your bearishness, if I'm just talking out loud. But there's an Adam and Eve. This whole thing's probably an ascending triangle. It was a little bit of a head and shoulders back here. It's been a lot of stuff. But I think it's probably most convincingly some sort of flag or ascending triangle. I just don't know if I can confidently be sized in this with Bitcoin looking like it looks. Now, again, this could go in the opposite direction. I just don't think that's going to be the case. I think this is going to need either time or down before continuation. Could be super wrong here, but I would not want to be leveraged if BTC looks how it looks. That's just me. ETH looks fine. Doesn't look horrible here, but it's the same discussion with Total too. You went straight up and sideways. The Kijun is not going to move. It is where it is. One other thing we can also do here is measure the old head and shoulders, and that gives you, if we call this the head and shoulders or whatever this was down here, just some sort of measurement, it gives you maybe a little bit more upside here. I just don't personally think the risk is worth it. Other people strongly disagree with that, and that's okay, but it's just not for me. Solana kind of been a disappointment. Lower time frames had this inverted head and shoulders quality to it. Never went anywhere, didn't break out. Gave it all back super quickly. Daily still a mess in the cloud. Yes, you have a remaining level up here, but fresh positions do not make sense here. The entry was way back here at 146. It just is what it is. Williams fractals giving you support level at 170, and we're right there. So I just don't like this as a setup today. I think we just need some time. If we want to think about where this could go for some bids, we can measure the low to the high. That gives us a level of basically the previous entry, 137 to 145. There's a volume level right there. So there's some things to think about on the way down, but I just don't see much of a reason to expect near-term bullishness on Solana. I think Sol BTC is a longer-term idea. Still looks okay to me. If we zoom way out, go to the 3-day. I don't hate this chart. I still like how it looks. Maybe it goes nowhere. Maybe it pukes out the bottom. It's still basically flat from February. If it's going to bottom, it's going to do it down here. Maybe not now, but within the next couple months. What you don't want is any new continuous lower lows. You don't want just slow bleed, because then you have a failed pattern. So for the moment, this looks okay. I don't hate it. And I could feel the same about ENA. It's been super volatile, plus or minus 5%, 6%, 10%. For the moment, it looks okay. So you kind of have to make a decision for yourself based on your entries, based on your sizing. Just as this took a couple months to form, we could get like a 2-month shoulder here. I don't know. This is another way to hedge against your ETH bearishness. I'm again just talking out loud for myself. I'm holding ENA. I don't hold any ETH. The assumption is that if ETH pulls up for whatever reason, ENA is going to do well. I would feel more confident in this pattern if it looks like this going into July, because at that point you're going to have just a vanilla cloud breakout with a pattern. But for now, I think you're just going to have to wait. Going to have to wait a long time. Ripple's also leaning in places you don't want it to lean. You know, it's still in this huge range. It hasn't really gone anywhere. You can see the volume profile giving you a heads up on the midpoint. We're below the midpoint. You really don't want to break out down below this range, and you don't want to break below the cloud. So it's still in no man's land. Nothing has changed. 260 is still the level where I like it a lot more. But if this starts to break down again, it's just hard to stay bullish on this because it's gone nowhere. And if you look at the volume profile, if we zoom way out, I guess, there really isn't any volume until like $1, right? So you really don't want to break down below the range here if you're holding Ripple. Doge, probably more of the same, closer to Solana, honestly. I just don't have good things to say generally about any of these charts. They're either in no man's land or they look ready to roll over. There's really no other analysis here. Talk to me in July, maybe into Q3. Then I think you're going to have some great setups. But right here, right now, it's just kind of ho-hum, lukewarm, really nothing to speak of. Cardano, a lot like Ripple, you don't want that breaking down if you're bullish. SWI, just hanging in there by a thread. On the cloud, really nothing. Again, like what is the analysis here? It's just ranging. It's in the middle of the volume level. You don't want this painting a head and shoulders come Q3. But right now, what's the expectation? I got nothing. I got nothing for you. It's just a whole lot of chop across the board. A lot of people asking me about Pepe as well. The same for ETH. Pepe is leveraged ETH. So if you think ETH's going to run, you'll love Pepe. If you're on the other side of that trade where you think BTC is going to pull back and ETH is going to get dragged with it, Pepe is going to get dragged even further down. In the moment, it looks okay. I just don't have any confidence here on anything. Now you could say, you could justify it. There's a flag here or something, right? You could justify a trade setup here and use a stop loss and that would be fine. I don't hate that. It's just, what is my confidence? Zero. Absolutely zero. But it's something you could do. It's not for me. It's something you could do. Monero. A lot of people thinking the Monero tree was growing to the sky. Well, here we are. It's pulled back. I still think, and somebody clipped this from the last video, if you're trading Monero up here, if we get rid of all this, if you're trading Monero up here, you want this thing to go to 2000. Otherwise, what's the point? Now, you could hold it for fundamental reasons, fine, but it is a massive potential ascending triangle. It is a 6-year ascending triangle. Maybe it just like fills this in and then in 2030 it explodes. I have no idea, but that's what you're going to want if you're trading it up here. If you measure this from the high to the low, that's how you get your 2000 target. I wouldn't expect that anytime soon, but that's what you're going to want if you're trading it up here. Fartcoin probably should fall the hardest out of everything. If this does pull back, what's the 50% level? Like 60 cents, 50% level from high to low. It just really doesn't make sense to me to sit in anything that is way out there on the risk spectrum if you're remotely bearish. You've got, is this a head and shoulders? I don't know. Is it a rising wedge? Maybe. Is it a rising channel? Definitely. I just don't have anything to say that's going to be bullish here. Let's go to the 12-hour. I just, what are people going to sell first? This or Solana? This or Ethereum? This or BTC? Probably this. And the further we go down this list, the more sad things start to look. Breakouts not going as far, not holding on to levels, just doing a bunch of nothing, generally. There's Link, Uni, same deal. It's got a setup, but in the scope of the market right now, what is the probability for that? If you think it's a high probability, you're leveraged, you've got massive size. If you think it's a zero probability like me, you just ignore it. But yeah, there's a pattern there, and people have been asking me about it. Sure, right? You got the cloud on your side, you got a pattern, you got a key volume level. I like this more above 7, but again, if I'm bearish alts, it's just not the time for me. I just don't care. Let this stuff chop around a lot. Aves had a great run, 2x from the lows. I got nothing else for you. in the moment. Looks okay trend-wise, but realistically, what can we expect here? Tau, same deal. Just kind of holding on to levels. Doesn't look bearish, but could probably use a few down days to reconsolidate. And as we enter into the meme coins, I think as a group, this stuff will start to break out like it did last year. I just think we need some time. Just need a little bit of time for things to reconsolidate. Let's take a look at Moodang. Yeah, I mean, like, you know, does it make more sense to take a trade on this today versus any time in May? You know, it just feels late. It feels overextended. It feels overbought. It feels like the path of least resistance is down, not up. Pengu, I think, is on that list as well. I saw it. Yeah, a little bit of a head and shoulders there. So broadly, I'm not expecting too much here within the next couple of weeks. It's summer anyway. People are going to be doing non-alt stuff, right? Coins are going to be selling off. That's going to be okay. Here's WorldCoin, is it? Yeah. GNT. I don't think there's much of anything anywhere. You can see Ton is up a bunch today on some announcement with Grok or something. I just don't think any of this stuff's going to be able to hold on to any levels until BTC gets bullish again. Because even when BTC was bullish, alts really didn't do too much. They kind of floundered. And that's not what you want to see if you're expecting a 2x beta product to outperform BTC. Lastly, I'll just say I thought this comment was funny from JC. Blue chip corporations like GME and DJT are buying Bitcoin. Probably something we'll look back on intra-cycle and say, yeah, you know, all these Bitcoin treasuries that do not have the conviction of Michael Saylor will eventually be selling, right? So if they have bought, and this is where we are, we're going to need more buyers to keep going. And if for whatever reason things get angry in the markets, this BTC is coming out. The ETF BTC, it will be sold to some degree if we start to roll over. And then we'll have a situation similar to the ETH ICO treasuries, where over the bear market period, we shed millions in ETH. Now, I think this is going to be a 2026 story. I don't think it's going to be a 2025 story, but it's something to keep in mind. If you go down this list, which of these companies is going to sell their BTC in a bear market? I bet it's going to be a decent chunk. Not a few of them, maybe not the Metaplanets and the Semlers and certainly not the MicroStrategies, but is GME going to hold on to their BTC? I'm not so sure. Are some of these others going to hold on? Rumble? I don't know. I don't have a lot of conviction in their conviction. That's all for this one. Give me a like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.